Okay, hello everyone. Here with another little computer bar stream. Although the actual bar is so cluttered up, this channel never quite became what I expected, but it's where I post any computer-related updates I need to post. And what we have here on the dining room table is ComputerLand BC88 number 5 in my collection. Number 4 is still a scrap of rusted parts with a bad power supply and a dead hard drive and other parts that do work from brief testing that could be spare parts, and that's about all that one's good for. And number 3 is down here on the floor in case I needed a working machine to test parts on, but actually, machine number 5 has been a pretty good specimen. A little dirty, and it's got some issues we'll go over, but I've not needed to test anything with a working machine. This one came with another Sysdyne CGA color monitor, which works for the time being. These things are always on borrowed time, though. This is the third Sysdyne CGA monitor I have, and of the 3, it's the only one that currently works properly. The first one I bought broken with hopes to fix it up, which I still have. The second one was working and then went really dim, and so that needs to be fixed up. And this one arrived on Friday evening and is still working, but for how long we shall see, although the touch-sensitive buttons don't work. But in addition to having a power button on the front, there's a mechanical power button on the back that has to be on the on position for this power button to work. So for the time being, I just have to turn it on reaching to the back, and I don't have the option to make green or amber text or adjust the brightness. But any working CGA monitor is a luxury in this point in time. It's hard to find good ones of these. Of course, throwing a VGA card into the slot's always an option, but anyways, this machine came with 2 floppies, and it had a hard drive with hard drive controller, hard drive mounted in there. As you can see, there's a hard drive up here. This hard drive is not the hard drive that was in there. This is a identical drive to the drive that was in there. We've got our floppy controller and RAM card. We got our PC card. It's got a game card to connect a joystick and a CGA video card with a switch to switch between color or monochrome. And all of this works. Now, what didn't work, though, was the hard drive that did come with the computer, which I have in pieces over here for reasons that'll become clear as we proceed. Because the guy that sold me this machine, he's like, well, let me test it to make sure it works. And I was like, dude, I don't care. It's probably not gonna. But yeah, let me let you know if it works. And then a few days later, he goes, well, I turned it on. It made a spark, and I turned it off. I'm like, okay, which gave me some good negotiation for the price, which I didn't really need a 5th one of these, but I'm still on the lookout for original software that came with this, because none of my previous machines have had the ComputerLand version of DOS that would come set up on these, or the original discs or books. And we'll get into the hard drive in this, but one of the cool things, not only did it come with a monitor, it came with a keyboard. This is the second one that I've bought that came with a keyboard. So of the 5 I've bought, only 2 had that keyboard. And it's got Blue Alps. So it's a pretty good keyboard. I haven't cleaned up the keyboard yet. It's looking pretty dingy. I'll probably clean up. Monitor cleaned up pretty nice, although it's a little yellowed as well as the case on this, but that's to be expected. I could retrobrite, but I generally don't do that. I just clean them up best I can. So about that pop, So I opened it up because when I got it out of the box, I see two floppies in the front, and I'm like, uh-oh, does it even have a hard drive? Because usually, in my experience, if you had two floppies, you were a floppy-only machine. If you bought a hard drive, you only had one floppy drive, and quite often it was common to have a hard drive in one of those bays with a faceplate on the front with a light. But sure enough, it had the internal drive. And this here is the board of the internal drive. And if we look over here, we can see two charred capacitors, one of which is probably what went pop when the original owner gave it a test and immediately turned it off. And so I knew it went pop, but I also didn't know where to start with testing other than to plug it in, turn it on, and see what happens. And I'm kind of glad I did that with the case off of it, looking at things, because I plugged it in, flipped the switch on, and sure enough, a loud pop and flame came out from the seam between the board and the hard drive, right where one of these two capacitors was. And I mean, I flipped the power switch off, but the flame persisted a bit. It wasn't like emerging high out from the drive, but there was an orange glow in there that I literally had to go and blow out. My apologies for not streaming the initial power on. I will now make a point going forward, any new old machine that comes in here, to live stream the first power on, so as to catch the next occurrence of something like that if that happens again. So anyways, this board is toast. I could find the values of those capacitors and probably all the other tantalum capacitors all matted on this board and replace those, but why would I do that when I have an identical drive? And as you can see, the board comes off of the drive fairly easily. And so that brings us to here. Now, why have I not swapped the board onto the drive that came out of here yet? Well, I have done that, and I've been going back and forth because that brings us to testing that I've done. So, of course, I don't remember where this hard drive came from. This hard drive still has data on it that I don't recognize, so I believe this hard drive still has whatever data came on it when I obtained it. I forget if this came in a machine I bought. I know there was a hard drive I bought separately for some reason because I was going to try to set up one of these machines to have two hard drives to try to double the space, and that just became more problems than it was worth. And but I don't know that if it was this drive or if this drive came in. It may have came in the third compact portable I bought. It came in something, or point is, it's a spare MFM hard drive kicking around that just happens to be identical to the one that was in here, which is very lucky to have that happen. Now, of course, this hard drive was not originally paired with this controller. I don't remember what controller it was paired with, but it does by chance, and it is by chance, work with this controller. Although it's not set up to boot properly. I'm a bit confused about that. It might have came in a machine that was configured to boot to some business system or something, but it does have data on it. So if I power on the machine, it makes some sounds that suggest that that's an aging drive on borrowed time. But it does spin up, and it does this little flippity back and forth thing and stays spinning. And over here, we don't get a 1701, which means that it's not unhappy about something relating to the driver controller. But it also is not going to boot, so we're going to grab a DOS boot disk that I have handy. So let me go ahead and put that in there and press the NE key. Even though it didn't ask me to press the NE key, it's just understood that you should press the NE key. Of course, this is going to need a battery change. We can see there's some weird things happening over here, and no lights are coming on, and there are methods to get the clock chip working again. And oddly enough, you can still order brand new batteries for this computer. If you Google ComputerLand BC88, one of the search results is a battery store that has the solder on battery. And I've done that on the 3 working ones. Anyways, I'm not going to put in a date and time right now. So yeah, it boots up. And if I go to the C drive, it recognizes it. And if I do that, it thinks about it. All right, so now it's making a liar out of me. Now, earlier today, before I did this stream, it actually showed me the contents of the drive. Let's try it again. Let's try a reboot. So the point is that it recognizes the drive. It doesn't give me a 1701. And earlier it let me view the contents of the drive, which suggests to me that the board of this hard drive is good and the controller is good. Let's go ahead and try one more time to see if we can get a directory reading off of this drive. Looks like it's not going to cooperate now. Well, it is making some odd noises. I'm going to power down. I'm going to well, it's also probably not too happy that I've got the board not screwed firmly into place and floating here. That's not exactly ideal, and that's part of what's making our noises. All right. Let's try this one more time. I just want to confirm and document that I do have this drive working. It's going to do it spinny, spinny. Well, it didn't really do the spinny, but anyways, no 1701. So it's not unhappy about anything there. And we're booting to the floppy. This drive is on its original low-level format. I probably could low-level format it and get it and breathe some life into it that way. That's not the point of our testing today, though. Okay, so there you go. Now we get a directory reading. And we're seeing it's got a word processor on there. We're seeing it's got some kind of database software on there, some kind of backup software on there. And it also has an X tree, got some kind of menu. And it also hesitates for a very long time before showing us the space available on this drive. So we're just waiting for that to happen. All right, so we do have some issues with this drive, which we're just going to go ahead and we're going to abort. I'm also going to take my boot disk out of here and put in another disk. I could put it in the B drive, but the B drive isn't giving me some trouble, so I haven't tested that a whole lot, because when you're having problems, it could be your disks, it could be the drive, it could be a combination. So for now, I've just been sticking with the drive that's been working more consistently and not adding another variable into the mix. So A drive, this disk has a command on it called ray-xtmfm, which was recommended to me when I was trying to troubleshoot another MFM drive in BC88 number 4. ray-xtmfm, enter, and this gives me an error earlier than it did on the past drive I used, and I guess I need to do some Googling or see if anyone comments about this. But at first, you know, part 1, part 2 seems to be running fine, and it's got some information on there, which I'll go ahead and leave up on here for people to review. CPU type, motherboard class, so let's get some information. Unable to identify BIOS. All right, now we press the any key to continue. And part 3, and this is where we get an error. I cannot identify the BIOS expansion ROM at C8000 aborting. So I don't know what that means or why that happens, but that happens on the hard drive that kind of works, as you can see, although, as you can see, it doesn't work perfectly. So the point to all this, though, is that if I power this down and disconnect things, I have, in theory, a working controller, a working cables, and a working hard drive board. And if I disconnect so if I come over here to this hard drive, over here we got 3 connectors that can come off. One, my apologies for the rotations. My phone doesn't like the slightest tilt. And then we got this ribbon cable's got to come off. And so that is our board that doesn't have fried capacitors on it. And we're going to go ahead and move this hard drive off to the side. And here is the hard drive that came with this computer that has the data I'm trying to view and read and get off of it. So let's put this board on it. I'm going to put the phone down a moment. My apologies. Just going to get the connectors on here again so I can show you all what's happening. All right, so now we have the working board connected to the hard drive that came in this tower. And unfortunately, this is what let me go ahead and put my boot disk in, because I don't think I'm going to get a boot from this. I think I'm going to get a 1701 and a motor that spins down after it tries to do its little self-check. So let's, I'm going to move the phone up to here so you can see that, and you can hear the spin-up sound and hear what happens rather consistently. Although now that I got a phone on it, maybe it'll do something different. Let's find out. And at that, the hard drive spins down. Now it does, sometimes it does different things with that turning back and forth. Sometimes it just turns and gets stuck at the end and then swings back and then powers down. Sometimes it swings back and forth and halfway through it powers down. But it always moves that around a bit and then the motor spins down. Like it's, you know, moving that, whatever it wants to happen doesn't happen, and it just gives up and won't even spin the platters anymore. Over here, we missed it, but we had a 1701 error on that screen. Of course, we can still boot to floppy. That's not been a problem on this machine. And of course, it's not going to see a C drive because it's not even spinning, and we got a 1701. And unfortunately, if I put that, let me get my disk away. I put this disk in. Kitty. Yeah, she doesn't care. If we run this command, we're going to get the same thing as we got last time, which being that we get the same error whether or not the drive is spinning and is recognized by the computer, doesn't really give me any useful information to go off of. So I need to figure out what that error is, so I can get past that error to get to the next error is what my guess is. But yeah, again, just to demonstrate, I'm going to go ahead and turn it off and turn it back on so you can kind of see. All right, yeah, that time that's where it spins down. Let's try that again. Well, that time it didn't even try to swing back. It just kept spinning to the end there, and it spins down again. So that's the story of that hard drive. Now, of course, there's a part of me that starts to think about, well, maybe it's possible to open up these two drives and transplant the actual platters from this drive into that drive that is working somewhat as you saw. Of course, that's the type of stuff that, well, requires getting into delicate areas and generally would be done in a clean room, which this room very much is not. But that's kind of like the only other thing I can think of right now, but I'm not ready to start doing that just yet. So still thinking on this. So yeah, that's ComputerLand BC88 number 5. And there's some good potential here for a good working machine. I don't really need 4 working BC88s. I'm probably good with 2 working machines and some parts. So at some point, I probably got to start selling off some of these desktop units. Although who knows? Maybe I'll just hold on to them forever just because. But I think 2 working machines and spare parts is probably enough. Someday I might start looking to see what interest is out there. Of course, I'm keeping the monitor and the keyboard. Yeah, so let's go ahead and turn that off, because I don't know how many minutes of use that monitor has before that goes poof. Anyways, that's the latest. I'm going to go ahead and draw this to a close. Please post any comments if you have any thoughts or any suggestions, or just want to say, hey, dude, cool computer. That's all good. And bye.